The war between Israel and Hamas is intensifying day by day. The IDF's movement to the third phase of the border crossings in the Gaza Strip and the deployment of tanks and armored vehicles in the settlements have increased the intensity of the clashes. As part of their aggressive ground operations, the IDF focused on ground targets and aerial attacks, declaring that they would destroy Hamas's most critical and strategic targets in Gaza and completely dismantle the tunnel infrastructure of the terrorist groups. The destruction of over 2,500 Hamas targets to date confirms the IDF's claims. On average, the IDF destroys 200 Hamas targets per day. At the same time, the terrorist organization Hamas retaliated against Israeli army attacks by launching rockets towards central Israel. No direct hits or casualties were reported, but the residents of these settlements were concerned about the effects of the terrorist attack. In response, the Israeli army began targeting key Hamas buildings and so-called strategy centers in Gaza with the support of the Israeli Air Force. They hit key Hamas targets, and Israeli forces launched defensive operations after discovering the most important terrorist strongholds. One of the Hamas terrorists killed during one of the IDF's operations was identified as Ibrahim Barari, the presumed commander of the Central Jabalia Battalion of Hamas. The IDF highlighted that the aerial strike in Jabalia was part of a broader attack on Hamas operations and infrastructure. With Barari's death, Hamas attacks against Israeli civilians began to decrease, and the IDF considered this a significant achievement. Israeli officials announced that the Israeli armed forces had achieved significant successes in the ground operation in the Gaza Strip, but it also paid a high price. Additionally, the defense minister, Yoav Gallant, ordered elite units to deploy their forces in a large part of the Gaza Strip. This is just one of the measures taken in the northern settlements of Israel, as the terrorist organization Hezbollah, backed by Iran, has been intensively attacking these settlements since the beginning of the war. Israel remains on constant alert against Hezbollah, just as it is against Hamas in Gaza. Finally, the IDF announced that they had targeted another terrorist cell in southern Lebanon that was attempting to launch anti-tank guided missile attacks. Hezbollah had been trying to increase its missile attacks against Israel, and the IDF declared that their response to Hezbollah's attacks would be reciprocal. In response to this announcement, the IDF began intensifying offensive operations near the northern border areas. So far, Israel has responded firmly to Hezbollah's attacks, but tensions on the battlefield are increasing. The U.S. and Israeli governments are rightfully concerned that Hezbollah, Iran's oldest and best-armed proxy, could open a second front in the conflict between Israel and Hamas. For years, Hezbollah has built a worldwide network of international financial activities and support for terrorist plots. Hezbollah and Iran have repeatedly targeted Israeli and Western objectives abroad. Now that Hezbollah is expected to intensify its attacks on the northern border areas of Israel, the IDF has increased its defenses. Israel is better prepared for rocket attacks from terrorist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah. Hezbollah, just like Hamas, is a dangerous paramilitary organization with no limits to its terrorist activities. The Israel Defense Forces have imposed a land, sea, and air blockade on the Gaza Strip. Over 350,000 Israeli soldiers and more than 200 units of tanks and armored vehicles are on constant alert, carrying out offensive operations to force Hamas out of Gaza and compel their surrender. IDF fighter jets conduct airstrikes on Hamas targets in Gaza every hour, while Israeli troops carry out artillery attacks on Hamas targets and settlements, such as the Deathstalkers tanks. The IDF's ground forces have made clear progress. Today, the Israeli army announced that their ground forces had killed several Hamas militants coming out of a tunnel near the Ares border crossing. Following this defeat of Hamas, the Israeli ground offensive continues at full throttle. The official IDF website continuously publishes evidence of these ground offensives, and the videos of the ground offensive published by the Israeli army show tanks moving on small sandy hills and excavators clearing debris. The Navy continues to neutralize Hamas submarine teams with attack patrol boats. Hamas submarine teams aim for the city of Ashkelon, but as Hamas has been using this method frequently in recent days, the Israeli Navy has taken measures to increase patrols to prevent Hamas submarine teams from easily reaching Ashkelon from the sea. The IDF is also sending special commando units to coastal Hamas targets in the Gaza Strip. While the IDF continues to tighten the noose on Hamas from all angles, the special naval commando units of the Israeli Navy recently carried out an incredible operation in the Gaza Strip. The Commando Brigade conducted a selective naval raid in the southern Gaza Strip and destroyed infrastructure used by the Hamas Navy. The IDF declared that other naval units were also on duty, and all Shet 13 commandos had left the area and returned to Israel. It appears that the Shet 13 commandos destroyed a naval base and an ammunition depot of Hamas on the coast.